Welcome to our mini ramp. If you guys don't know us, I'm Brianna. I go by my skate name on this channel, Simon Slays. I am a aggressive park roller skater.
I'm Kyle, her husband. I skateboard.
And we built our own mini ramp. Obviously, we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna show you step by step how we built our mini ramp. There are plans linked below for exactly how you can replicate what we did. Obviously, if you need to make any adjustments.
In this video, we're gonna cover time, materials, price, tools, etc.
So yeah, we'll basically cover everything, but we'll keep it quick and
concise
for you. So yeah, we're gonna show you now how we built our mini ramp.
Let's get to it. Stay home, stay safe, build something, skate it. First, we decided the location of where we wanted to put our ramp. Then, we measured and calculated the dimensions that would fit in the space. After we determined what size ramp would fit in our space, we researched a few plans, referenced and adapted them for what we needed to build.
We made a list of materials and tools we would need for the project, including dimensions, material type, and the cost for buying it. We looked up those items on our phone, browsing our local Lowe's and Home Depot stores. You can price everything online on their website to compare the best prices before you buy, including figuring the budget and your final cost for building it. You also can find out what is available and in stock on their website when you search by the store location. That way you don't make a ton of trips to different stores trying to find the materials you need, and you also have the option to just pick it up when you arrive at the store instead of going around in the store trying to hunt it all down. Here is a list of the materials that you will need.
22 8-foot 2x4s, 2 3/4 inch thick 4x8 sheets of plywood, 8 3/8 inch thick 4x8 sheets of plywood, 4 1/4 inch thick 4x8 foot sheets of masonite, 2 2-inch diameter by 8 foot long black pipe or galvanized steel pipe, 1 box of 1 5/8 inch screws, 2 boxes of 2.5 inch screws.
You'll need the plans for the mini ramp, a number 2 pencil, a measuring tape, a level, safety glasses, protective work gloves, a circular saw, a jigsaw with a jigsaw wood blade, an extension cord, a drill, a battery charger, a star drill bit, a 3/8 titanium drill bit, a 3/16 titanium drill bit, a 6-inch long star bit, a countersink bit, a Sharpie marker. You also may need an angle grinder. You will only need this tool if your coping piece needs to be trimmed down, aka if it's longer than 8 feet long. After completing our mini ramp, Kyle and I both agree that it's a lot easier to do this with 2 people. You're working with large pieces and you need at least 1 person to assist. While building this mini ramp, you're going to want to have 1 person who will be able to assist you and who can hold the larger pieces for you securely while you drill or cut.
1 person working with you will need to know how to use power tools and already have a basic quality carpentry skills like drilling with an impact drill, using different kinds of bits, drilling and cutting metal, etc.
Now that you've got everything you need, it's time to start putting it all together. We're going to build the 2 transition frames first, using all 22 of the 2x4 boards and the 2 thicker sheets of plywood.
Drawing the transition. The first step is measuring and marking the pattern to draw. Then you will cut out the transition side pieces and deck. Lay the 2 pieces of plywood down side by side. On the top sheet of plywood, measure in 1 foot 8 7/8 inches from the side. Next, measure up from the bottom piece of plywood 5 feet 6 inches. Mark a spot here. Measure 5 foot 6 inches and put a screw in the board. This screw will go into the plywood where you made a mark earlier. Next, take a 2x4 and measure in 3 inches. Drill a hole here. Stick your number 2 pencil in the hole you drilled, and this is how you will draw the transition. Drag the 2x4 down to draw the radius. Measure up on the left bottom corner 1 foot 11 1/4 inch. This will be the height of the ramp. From the same corner, measure over 5 foot 1 1/4 inch.
Now we are ready to cut the transition piece out. You won't need to use the 2x4 any longer. After this, we will be using this transition piece we cut out to make a pattern for all the rest that we need to cut out.
For the second transition, simply use the transition pieces you just cut out, lay them over each corner in the same pattern, and trace around the edges to mark the lines. Remove them, then cut in the same order as the first set. Take the deck piece and draw a straight line to cut along using a pencil and measuring tape. Trim the excess 3/4 inch on the deck piece using the circular saw. You now should have a 2 foot wide by 8 foot long deck. Take the other piece with the outline of the two transitions drawn on it. Cut along those lines as steadily as possible using the jigsaw until both are cut out. By now you should have 2 deck pieces and 4 transition pieces.
Now we will cut the notch that we will be setting the coping in. Using a measuring tape and a number 2 pencil, measure and mark 2 inches in and 1 1/4 inch down from the top of the transition radius. Cut the notch out of both transition side pieces using the jigsaw. Set those pieces aside.
Trimming the 2x4s. Before we build the frame, you'll need to measure and mark 1.5 inches in on one end of all the 2x4s. Using the jigsaw, trim that off. You will only need to do this on one end of every 2x4. This will even out the width so that the surface matches the edge later.
To build the frame, you will need 11 2x4 boards each, 2 transition pieces for each side, and the deck. You're going to be building 2 of these at each end. Place the transition pieces on each side 8 feet apart. Measure and mark every 8 inches on both side pieces along the edge. This is where you will be attaching the 2x4 boards. Line up the 2x4 boards with the marks. Grab your handheld drill, put on a star bit, and grab a box of 2.5 inch screws. These will be holding and supporting the deck. Have one person hold the board securely as the other one screws in the ends. Repeat this process all the way down to the end. On the top and the bottom of the transition, lay the boards flat. Along the deck and curve, align the boards up and down. Make sure that you align the 2x4s flush along the edge as you screw the frame together. Repeat this until you've completed building both transition frames. Trimming the coping length. If you were lucky enough to find a 2-inch round steel pipe that was exactly 8 feet long, congratulations, you can skip this next step. But if, like us, the only piece you were able to find was longer than that, aka 10 feet long, you will need to trim the length of the coping first. To do that, you're going to lay the coping in the notch, align the ends with how you would like them, flush against the edge of the frame, and use a Sharpie marker to mark where you need to cut off the excess. Using an angle grinder, you will cut off the extra length of the coping to the correct width. Have one person hold the coping down from turning, sliding, or moving while the other person cuts. Make sure that you have your protective gear on, nothing flammable nearby that may catch fire from the sparks flying, and please be very careful that you do not touch the metal right after you cut it. It will be extremely hot. Just let it cool before picking it up. Once you've trimmed the coping, it's now time to drill holes on both sides so that you can attach it.
Attaching the coping. On one side of the coping, you're going to use a Sharpie marker and measuring tape to measure and mark every 10 inches in a straight line down the steel pipe. Using a 3/8 inch titanium drill bit, stand over the coping and drill a hole through. Again, have someone help hold the coping in place. You do not want it to move at all while you're drilling through it. After you've drilled one side of the steel pipe all the way down the length, you're going to mark on the other side directly across from the hole you just drilled with a 3/16 inch titanium drill bit. This will be the side that will be against the wood. The larger holes are where you'll drill through from on top. There you go. Using the longer 2.5 inch screws, align the holes in the steel pipe and drill the screws in to attach it. Once the coping is attached on both transitions, you're ready to move on to laying down the plywood layers. Attach the deck by laying the 2x8 plywood pieces you cut earlier on top. Drill screws from the top into the 2x4 boards below every 15 inches. You can mark or eyeball these. Once the deck is attached, your frame is done.
Now we're going to lay down 2 layers of plywood using the 8 3/8 thick 4x8 plywood panels. This is going to set the length of your mini ramp, so basically you're going to set your 2 transitions facing each other with a space in the middle. You're going to lay down the first 2 panels between those 2 transitions, and then the other 2 on each transition. 2 panels should fit side by side in the flat. This will be the length of your mini ramp. To lay the first layer of plywood, we are going to start at the top of one of the transitions, lay down a 4x8 panel, and align it flush to the coping. Screw this panel into the frame using a drill, a star drill bit, and the 1 5/8 inch screws. Start on the outside by making sure you're drilling in line with the 2x4s beneath. You want to drill the plywood to the frame. Add screws about every 15 inches across. Go down every 8 inches in line with the 2x4s until you reach the flat. Once you reach the flat, lay down the 2 panels and align their edges evenly. Secure the flat with 2.5 inch screws into the base surface the ramp will be setting on. We did this so our ramp wouldn't move or shift when we skated it. We screwed directly into our porch surface. Go back to using the shorter 1 5/8 inch screws for the rest in the same distance and alignment as the rest of the ramp, every 8 inches down and 5 inches across. You totally can eyeball it. When you get to the end, you most likely are going to need to trim the last panel of plywood that you attached. To do this, you're going to mark the panel where you need to trim with a number 2 pencil, using a measuring tape to draw a straight line. Have one person stand on it to weigh it down while the other person uses the circular saw to cut off the excess. Then align it again, match it up against the coping, and finish screwing in the last panel. Now the first layer of plywood is down.
For the second layer, before you attach it, you're going to cut one of the plywood panels in half. You will lay these at each end at the top of the transition. This is to offset the seams of each layer from each other. Once the panels are ready, repeat the same process with drilling the plywood down as the first layer, but be careful to avoid drilling any screws on top of the ones in the layer below. Off-center them just enough that they still go into the 2x4s in the frame beneath, to the side and across, but still avoid the ones already in there. Again, you will most likely need to mark and trim the last panel of plywood that you attach.
Once both layers of plywood are securely attached, you only have one step left until you can skate this baby, the surface.
Take the 4 1/4-inch thick 4-foot by 8-foot sheets of masonite and lay them one by one on the ramp. Because the surface and texture of this material is different than hardwood, we're going to switch out the bits on the drill and use countersink. We recommend using 2 drills, one with the countersink and the second with the star bit, otherwise you're going to be switching between the 2 every time you drill then screw. You especially don't want to re-drill on the surface layer, so be very careful again to avoid drilling on top of any screws already in the plywood layers below. Start at one end by aligning the first panel of masonite flush to the coping edge. You don't want any huge gaps and you don't want it to stick up too high either. Drill a hole using the countersink bit and then screw it down with 1 5/8 inch screws. You can blow or sweep away the excess in between or after. Follow the same pattern across and down as when you attach the plywood layers until you get to the last panel. Align the last panel of masonite along the coping, mark and trim it down if needed so it's flush against the coping. Go back over the masonite surface one last time and add any screws where needed. Don't overdo it, but look for any spots that are not laying flat, especially at the seams. You don't want those to come up or catch your wheels on them.
After the last screw is in place, you are officially finished. Congrats, you just built your own mini ramp. Now it's time to celebrate by skating it. Here is our finished ramp. It's 2 feet tall by 8 feet wide by 14 feet and 3 inches long. Here's some clips from us skating it. Pumps installs amazing. The transition ratio is literally perfect. You don't lose any momentum riding it back and forth. The masonite is so smooth. It's not too slick or sticky. It's the perfect surface to ride. We absolutely love our mini ramp.
If you have any questions at all, just leave a comment below. We'd love to answer those. We're gonna film a separate video answering all of your questions and have a Q&A about our mini ramp. Yeah, if you have any questions about the cost, values, all that jazz. Whatever questions you have, just leave those in the comments below and we'll be sure to answer them.
Brianna filmed this whole process so that you guys can go check it out.
So you'll be seeing a time-lapse later if it's not already up when you're watching this. Make sure you subscribe so you can see that video. If you tap the bell notification, it will tell you when I upload any new videos. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please give it a big like and let us know. That really means a lot. We worked very hard filming this and Kyle worked very hard as a handyman on this ramp. We both did, so we really appreciate your support and let us know if you actually build a ramp because it was super fun for us to build together and now to skate it is like kind of a little dream come true. So I think that covers it all.
Let's skate.
Thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.